All right, John, we got some breaking news on a Sunday night to get to. Before we dive in, I'm Guy. That's John. This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Podcast also below in the description. Get on that as well. Subscribe.
All right, so we had on Saturday, John Lynch tweeted, "I'm thirsty, Niner fans. You want some juice?" And then his agent told Adam Schefter, Kyle Juszczyk's agent told Adam Schefter, "Juice is expensive. I'm thirsty too, but juice ain't cheap. Lemons are out of season." He signed, John. We had Juszczyk on the pod. I didn't think he was going to be back on the Niners. He's back.
You know what it shows you is that, the thing with coaches, they always tell you, right? Head coach in the NFL, you want to meet owners. I think we talked about that before with minority coaches, with assistant coaches. People think you want to get with executives. You want to get with owners. And, same thing in college sports. You want to get with ADs, the guys doing the hiring. When you're a player, you know what it matters, who likes you. Obviously, the owner matters. But a lot of the transactions, like Jed, if they don't want Kyle or they want Kyle, Jed has nothing to do with Kyle Juszczyk. The head coach likes him. The decision maker likes him. And when the decision maker likes you, you have a decent chance in football. Because unlike in other, in basketball, sometimes the cap. In baseball, obviously, sometimes, like I'm sure Billy Beane and Bob Melvin have wanted to keep many people. They do not have the money. Players they liked. In football, if they really want to find a way, they find a way. We're learning that about the cap this year more than ever. It's like, oh, everyone's screwed. It's like, no, everyone's fine. Yeah. It's like all these guys are getting signed. The head coach loves them, the guy. Obviously, the organization, the GM, the assistant coaches, Kyle Shanahan loves Kyle Juszczyk. Clearly, Kyle, we know how much Kyle likes playing here and how much it means to be here. Obviously, they had to pay to keep him. But I think it means a lot to Kyle Shanahan. Like, that's my overarching take when I read Rapshi's tweet. Kyle Shanahan told Parag, I want this guy here. We got to figure it out.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was unique. It wasn't one of those players where his price point is not in the $15 to $20 million, right? It's one of those manageable positions. But I could probably find a guard for $5 million a year, right? You could find you can find other players for this.
Yeah, Kyle blocks.
Not nothing.
Juszczyk blocks.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like they are allocating this money. It's not a little chunk of change, right? When the cap comes down $20 million.
Yeah, look, one thing, and I can't remember if this is in the podcast or not, because full disclosure, we did the podcast Sunday, and then this news broke, and we're back on the lab minutes after. But one thing Kawakami wrote was, hey, people think the cap's going to go up to $220 million next year, and while you do have the Niners a lot of money committed to the future, and you are going to need a Fred Warner contract at some point, you are just rich. Like, you have the cash. You can spread some of it out and make it work this year when the cap's at 182.5.
What if owners were like, psych, 150?
Yeah, let's go down again. We'll go even lower. Like they're a mattress salesman. But,
Yeah.
but in that conversation you and I had previously, it was like, are the Niners going to lose Trent Williams, Joe Staley, Richard Sherman, and this guy, DeForest Buckner, and this guy, right? Guys who... And you could even take Trent out of that, just in terms of the core of the guys that made the Super Bowl run and were part of building this team up before they were anything. Just leaders, fate clearly.
Academic, smart guys. Like how many
guys.
Stanford, Harvard guys can you lose?
Also, these are people just, Richard Sherman's doing the Collinsworth pod. Juszczyk when the Niners need somebody to do a meatless meat commercial. They're Juszczyk, just guys you can count on in the organization.
Would it shock you if one day DeForest Buckner won a Man of the Year in the NFL?
It would not. It would not. I remember watching, before we talked to Juszczyk, watching DeForest Buckner interview Kyle Juszczyk at the Pro Bowl, 2 years ago, and it was just two really high level guys having a conversation, and so there is a value. This is part of why we thought the Jets might be a fit for him, because that organization now knows Kyle Juszczyk's value. I'm not talking as a player. I'm just talking from a leadership standpoint. Obviously the Niners do too. But ultimately, you've got, this is a team who has to win games. They need to get players who can help them win games. And this guy has proven to be able to help them win games.
I bring up what would Bill Belichick do a lot. And I think if you just ask a common football fan what Belichick was known for in their 20-year run, it was like getting rid of guys, letting guys walk, never overpaying for players. And I do think it's sometimes a little overrated with that kind of just the way he's painted, like the way that people talk about Belichick and the way he actually built his team. Because when you look at the last decade, the second, I guess it was like the third iteration, right? We had talked about this last week with like, they had like 3 separate groups. The core guys stayed for the whole time, right? Edelman, McCourty, obviously Tom, Slater, like Gronk. Like they had a core group of guys because you know what? When you have guys coming in and out of the door, you need guys, your best players to set the tone. And you have to pick 3 or 4 guys. Now, you got to let other guys go, and the 49ers aren't going to keep all their free agents. They have a ton. But I do think when they looked at it, this guy had, obviously, again, back to Kyle Shanahan, he means a lot, but just in their locker room, his talent is the other thing. We haven't really mentioned that. Like, he's a really good player. He can do a lot for them, right? Catch the football. He can just, they can move him around. Like, to me, when you think about Kyle Shanahan's variety of what he can do on offense, part of that is having versatile pieces. Like, why can he run all these end arounds? I don't know, because he has this wide receiver named Debo that actually kind of looks like a running back and actually kind of wants to run guys over even when he probably should go out of bounds because he gets hurt a lot. But shit, Kyle goes, well, I don't think there are many wide receivers in the league. Tyreek does it because he's fast. Debo does it because of fucking run over 3 guys and all of a sudden it's 25 yards.
Yeah, part of the deal, too, is they can't get the ball to him down the field, so he's constantly running in between the tackles. Well, he's not in between
That's
the tackles.
True, too. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, to have a dynamic offense, you need dynamic players. And I do think Kyle feels very strongly that Kyle Juszczyk gives him that just flexibility, right? At a price point that, because I do think you could have talked yourself out of this, right?
Well, we don't know. As of the recording of this, we've got it at, what, 5 years and $27 million?
Yeah, I'm not even talking. I'm just saying he was just making $5 million. I would imagine he's making very similar to that. And you could have used this money and allocated it other way. Again, props, and I'm very glad to the Niners they figured this out. He came on our show. I like knowing a guy on the 49ers. Like, it's good for me and you. But, like, from a football standpoint, I would have understood if it's like, you know, the Niners were given the chance to match this offer and they said no, right? It wouldn't have been, like, bad business if they would have let him walk.
Well, no, I mean, but, yeah, I do understand what you're saying. But part of this is Kyle Shanahan values this, what Kyle Juszczyk does. Part of the cost is what is the cost of replacement? And for the cost of replacement, do I get anything close to the level of production? Okay, yeah, maybe I can save 75 cents on the dollar. Am I getting 25% of the production? Because I don't want 25% of the production, right? There are areas where you cut corners and save money, and there are areas where you don't. And clearly for Kyle Shanahan, this is not an area where he's willing to cut costs and save money. Now, again, we don't know what the money is, but this is not an area where he's willing to, try and fill the gap with 2 guys at a half the cost combined, doing it by committee.
I agree. Yeah. And it's something that he might feel that doesn't really exist. Guys like this in the league. I mean, is there another Kyle Juszczyk in the NFL, really? Not really, right? I mean,
still looking.
Yeah, I do wonder. Do you know what's funny about this whole contract? When he first signed, I'll never forget the natural reaction was, because when a bad team makes a guy the highest paid player ever at his position, people go, oh my God, the Niners paid a fullback that much money. If you would have just done a survey of the common media guy or someone on Twitter that follows the NFL, like how long, Juszczyk probably be there a couple years of his contract. They'll cut him like most contracts. He didn't just last the full years of his 4-year contract. He then hit free agency and they re-signed him to a contract bigger than the original one. Like, we've talked a lot about John Gruden's and his misses. One thing Kyle Juszczyk is not. Now, you can debate like the fullback investing in the position. This is what you want when you sign free agents. They identified it. The guy's good. He makes Pro Bowls, and you want to keep him. And then you choose to.
Yeah,
like, this is obviously you'd want like your $20 million, like your Trent Williams, like your big price free agents to be this. But if you can hit on enough of these free agents, you're in pretty good shape.
They
right?
spent money and then decided the money they had spent was money well spent. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
It worked.
There's probably a very good chance, we'll see when the actual finances come out, Juszczyk's going to play on the Niners for, health permitting, I'd say 6-7 years, right? That's a long time for a guy that played 4 years on his first 4 years of his. It's not like he started on the Niners.
I would think another 3 years, and even after that, it might be. Let's say in year 4, maybe there's a restructure or something. Clearly, there's something here between these two.
I mean, Kyle is a mid-round pick from Harvard, who I remember he told us he didn't even go to the combine. when it's all said and done, like this is kind of the NFL, he's going to have a 12 to 13 year career, right? It's going to be a remarkable, like, damn, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, this is 8. We're at 8, and he's 20. He'll turn 30 in April.
And he just signed a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Which in the NFL, we know, but he's 2 more years away from a decade in the league.
Again, he signed a 5-year contract with a team that really values him, and now has proven it twice.
And they should value him, right? You watch him play, his value to the team. Like you said, there is a value to, like the Warriors have been lucky. They've had Steph, Draymond, and Clay that they could throw out for, going on a decade now to talk. The Niners Sherman talked every day for 4 years. DeForest Buckner, every year he was here, was the team captain. Like Joe Staley. You lose these guys. Like eventually it's like, you can't just, George and Fred can't talk every day. You do need some, this is back to my Patriot thing. There's a reason Slater has been breaking them down for a decade. McCourty talks, Brady had talked, Gronk talks. You do just need a core group of guys to kind of lead the fucking ship.
Right.
Because most human beings in life are followers. And that's not even a bad thing. In the NFL, you can become worth hundreds of millions of dollars being a follower. But you do need a couple guys to lead the ship.
You just reminded me, and I don't know that he can necessarily fully fill this role, but one of the things I thought when we had Kyle on the podcast, Juszczyk, was about Brandon Ayuk. And he told us Brandon Ayuk and I got close this year, and all he just wants to be good so bad, he just needs somebody to show him how to do it. And Kyle was talking more about like another receiver, but that's a perfect example of, you've got a first-round pick, you've invested a lot in this player, he's shown a great potential, and the guy you just re-signed, Kyle Juszczyk, believes in him, thinks that investing in Brandon Ayuk is something that's worth his time too. Now, again, you'd like it to be, ideally, it's another guy that plays his position, but nonetheless, I mean, this is part of what you're investing in.
Well, I'll give you one. Mostert got hurt. He's very talented. Like, it's proven. I went from not knowing his name a couple years ago to going like, the Niners' offense is dramatically worse when he's not around. But like most running backs, there's a reason that he's just going to get hurt a lot. It would not shock me this year if the Niners take a running back, right? Like I don't mean high, but if like in the 4th round they take a running back and all of a sudden that guy's good, he's a starter.
Right.
Well, who would be a number 1 influence on that guy? Kyle. I mean, he's like, I do think he's, I'm sure, very important in that room. And what does that room mean to Kyle? I don't know. He loves running the football. Like it's a big deal to him, right? And who did he just lose? He just lost LaFleur. And I don't think you want to just hire or keep players based on coaches coming and going, but there is some institutional knowledge with a guy that clearly knows the offense pretty well, right?
Yep. Him and Mike McDaniel get to stick together. Him and his boy.
They do.